I do believe if we're not being looked at, then I'll do my part to get us looked at. The beautiful thing for networks or, if you will, streaming companies is that the NFL is a 365-day-a-year interest factor. A lot of programming, you have to spend as much to make it, to promote it, as you do to make it. The Cowboys are a soap opera 365 days.
The streaming will begin
when it gets low, I'll start
momentarily.
Good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Jobu, as well as Bucky the Damn Beaver, and even the Funky Chicken. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and starting your day with the Jobu Sports Report. I appreciate each and every one of you guys, and I hope and pray that you thanked a veteran yesterday, because without them, I probably wouldn't be able to be sitting right here talking to you guys. And it has been a blessing and a pleasure each and every day to start my day with you guys. So we have some breaking news this morning. Now that the Giants have fired their coach, seemingly one of the best quarterbacks in football, at least perception-wise, his career may be done, and that is Russell Wilson. Let's go to the tape early this morning on Get Up.
The last few minutes, our Adam Schefter and Jordan Renan are reporting the Giants are expected to start Jameis Winston on Sunday against the Packers rather than Russell Wilson. Bear in mind, Jackson Dart suffered a concussion in the second half of Sunday's loss to the Bears. He is still listed as their first-string quarterback, but Jameis Winston has supplanted Russell Wilson in second string, and assuming, and I think it's a reasonable assumption, that Dart is not able to play this weekend, it's going to be Jameis Winston starting rather than Russell Wilson. And we thought this was worth mentioning briefly here for the following reason. Not so much for the impact that it will have on the game, but I remember you and I having a conversation towards the end of Russell Wilson's time in Seattle, in which we discussed that it looked like when Peyton Manning and Tom Brady were going to be sort of going into retirement, that the league was going to become Russell's league. And it never happened. Nope. All these young guys came and supplanted him. Now we had what can only be described as a disastrous tenure in Denver, a bad little stint, certainly nothing special in Pittsburgh, and now this whole thing in the Giants. How, if at all, do we think that is going to impact the way we remember Russell Wilson and potentially even his chances of getting into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it certainly impacts it. Quarterback winning a Super Bowl and getting to another Super Bowl, I still think he has a good chance and having some really impressive seasons. But I think we're going to remember the end of his career because it's been a long, kind of ugly process for him. We're going to remember this as a big portion of his career. I think it's going to be very difficult. With time, maybe some of that stuff will erode and we'll think back to him being that young quarterback who kind of was at the beginning of changing the way that rosters were constructed. Like, he was a pivotal quarterback in the development of the league, but I do think that these last several years are going to be like how we think of him as a player. Is like how it ended is going to be more important than the success that he had.
I was an alternate voter for the Hall of Fame, no longer am. I would say bragging. In that room, hey Flex, in that room, alternate voter. In that room though, it's going to be voters who decide they're going to present, can you write the history of the NFL without this player? I don't know if you can or you can't with Russ. I will say this, he had 9 Pro Bowls in 10 years and went to 2 Super Bowls and was a Walter Payton Man of the Year for many years in Seattle. If he had retired as a Seattle Seahawk, I think we probably would have said he's a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame.
Correct.
I don't know if we hold these last few years against him.
That's a well-made point. And obviously, that if they give the ball to Marshawn Lynch at the end of that Super Bowl, he's a 2-time Super Bowl champ.
And maybe 3 times and 4 times, and we're talking about a different situation altogether.
What gets me is, remember not that long ago, he threw for 450 yards.
Against
We were like, I thought Russ is cooking.
Right.
Let Russ cook. It's crazy how quickly things change. I really thought he had recaptured something, and then it felt like fool's gold after a while.
Yeah, look, I mean, It's a shame. Russ is always going to be equated, obviously, to the Legion of Boom, and there's going to be many people who use the defensive prowess of those football teams against him as well to kind of make an argument against him. Look, he's been the consummate professional. It rarely does end the way you want it to. It really does end at a high. I think for Russ, I think we're doing him a disservice if we continue to just point to some of the issues that he's had at Denver, at Pittsburgh, and now at the Giants, and not really kind of celebrate this man for the career he had in Seattle, which I remember when he came out of Wisconsin.
Yep.
I remember just how good this guy was and how he did change the paradigm of how you build football teams.
If he has taken his last snap, how would we remember it? Meanwhile, the Giants have other things they're concerned with right now, like searching for a replacement.
Well, we'll leave it right there with the Giants. They got all kinds of issues and things. But it's amazing how quickly that turned. And I dare say that the best time, statistically, when Russ was cooking, and you can look at it similar to what you see right now at the Dallas Cowboys offense, was with Brian Schottenheimer. Make no mistake about it. You can look at it and say that Seattle Seahawks had the Legion of Boom, that was, when they won the Super Bowl, best in yardage, best scoring, and best in taking away the football. And, that helps. But you still have to have a quarterback that's not turning over the ball and still getting things. That was a situation that was similar to what you had with the Dallas Cowboys. We were a loaded roster, and you need the guy to be able to get this stuff together. And he's had an incredible career, and it's sad to see it go the way it has. It's one of the things I hate to see when players get older, seeing them go to other teams. Sometimes you wish they could just ride off in the sunset as the hero that they were in their teams. But unfortunately, chasing the money. And you can think about how much money he made with the deal in Denver and so on. You can understand why they would. So for the Cowboys, couple of things here when we're still dealing with the Micah Parsons, and we probably will be dealing with Micah Parsons, the what ifs forever, because that's what happens. Jerry Jones yesterday was answering why they put the poison pill in, and to me, it was pretty simple. One, you didn't want Micah Parsons to, as being vengeful, being able to possibly go where he wanted to go. And two, is worrying about that player coming back to bite you in the ass. I don't think it should be a big deal, but Eagle fans have a way of getting butthurt real easy. It's obvious, this is what Jerry said, it's obvious it has its own definition, Jones told the fan. We don't want, without consideration, Parsons to be going to a team we're going to have to play twice a year, and I think it says it all right there. The clause works both ways. The Cowboys are prevented from trading Kenny Clark back to the NFC North team, but would think that the primary purpose of the clause is to prevent Pennsylvania-born Parsons from winding up with the Eagles. And I have no doubt about it, because Jerry Jones, when you're rich, you want to get your way more than anything else because you got all the money, especially, it seems, since Jones is very aware of the current position the Eagles are in, the defending champs and currently in first place in the East. Last night, the Eagles-Packers matchup, of course, we look at it from a different standpoint of the standings, he explained. And candidly, Philadelphia got another win there. When you're looking at where they're ranked in the East, that's the first and foremost my mind is watching the ball game. There you have it. So, yeah, he doesn't want the Eagles to get that. The thing that's kind of, I don't understand this. And maybe you Eagle fans can explain it to me. I keep hearing, I used to hear from Leo, who would say that it was trauma from back in the 90s when the Cowboys were good, and that they, were bad, and that Cowboys were always throwing shade on them. Now, to be quite honest with you, I didn't. The Eagles were not my rival until about the 2010s. It, for me, was always the Redskins. We were battling it out because, I remember the over-the-hill gang and the Cowboys and the Doomsday defense, Tom Landry versus George Allen. And then, of course, when they got Joe Gibbs and things, and that was the waning of the Cowboys. For me, the hate was Washington, and it still is. But for whatever reason, I guess some Cowboy fans were always, beating up the Eagles like little redheaded stepchilds, that they are still at anything. They are just so mad at the Cowboys. I get fired off from an Eagle fan. This one, you Eagle fans, what the hell is your problem? You're sitting at the number 1 seed. You won the damn Super Bowl. You've been winning against the good teams in the NFL. Why do you give a rat's ass about what a Dallas Cowboys YouTuber talks about from a red brick house that's full-time job isn't covering the Cowboys? Why is it that I get under your skin so bad that you literally have to wake up in the morning, 7 a.m.? I would think with what happened to Marshawn Kneeland, you wouldn't throw shots just because you hate the Eagles. That's some low-life stuff. And you wonder why there's so much hate. You keep doing to yourself. What shot did I throw at the Eagles? When the news broke that Jair Alexander decided, I'm good, I'm going to step away from football, I reported it, and you guys literally get bent up over me saying that Jair Alexander, who you just traded swap picks 6 for 7th, swap picks for, decided after 1 week to say, I'm good? That is enough to make you consider me a sick somebody? Bro, you know Marshawn Kneeland was a Dallas Cowboy, right? We lost a player. Not you. I might understand if you had this situation and then I was taking a shot at you. But it wasn't a shot. Get over yourselves, Eagles fans. Jeez, oh, flip. And that reminds me, it is hump day, isn't it? It is Wednesday, and I got to deal with the Dan Saleo show. I wonder what props Philly 500 will bring in here today. All right, so now that I've gotten all worked up, got my blood pressure up because of idiot Eagle fans, here's the questions. Now, the Cowboys have 8 games left. If they were to win 6 of them, that gets you 9 wins. I don't think 9 wins is enough to get you into playoffs. Not knowing that 2 of the teams that you have to pass, you lost to. You need the Bears and Carolina to collapse. Maybe you win 7 games. I'm still not sure that 10 will get you in when you look at the numbers of everybody in front of you. The question is, can the Cowboys change what they're doing? And I think that this should be eye-opening. It should be eye-opening to the Dallas Cowboys that instead of going out, because this is the problem. The philosophy for the Dallas Cowboys has been, we could just go ahead and sign guys cheap to a 1-year deal. If they play good, then we'll pay him give him another contract, or we'll let him walk, and we'll get a comp pick in return. And then we'll just bring in some more. The hope and the need is here that the Dallas Cowboys realize that good players, that paying somebody good is better than paying 3 guys dirt cheap. That looking and saying, well, they were a first-round draft pick, so we're going to sign them, and sell you and say, well, he was a first-round draft pick. Well, it doesn't matter what they were 4 years ago. What are they now? That premier players make a difference on your roster. That you need great players. See, we decided when we had Amari Cooper, we don't need that guy. We can plug in anybody. We traded him for nothing. And our solution was, we're going to get Jalen Tolbert. We're going to draft some guys. We're going to sign just some journeymen and, a late round draft picks. Those are going to be our wide receivers. And we're going to plug those in there, and we're going to be good. And as you sit here and say, George Pickens might cost $34 million. I get that. But when you think that today, right now, part of our salary cap, that $8.7 million is going to Michael Gallup. That $4 million is right now going to Brandon Cooks. That you got $13 million sitting there. And then you got Jalen Tolbert that you spent a third-round draft pick for. You've got Jonathan Mingo, who you gave up a fourth-round draft pick for. So we're looking at this. Here's what we have to look at and say, here was our solution. Brandon Cooks, Noah Brown, Jalen Tolbert, Michael Gallup as our number 2 wide receiver. That's what you've done over the last 3 years since Amari Cooper left, or you gave him away. Not real good. Not real good. You haven't had anybody over 650 yards. You haven't had anybody over 650 yards in that time. Here you have George Pickens, who already 9 games in has done better than any number 2 wide receiver you've had over the last 3 years in a full season. You take Jalen Tolbert's, when he was our number 2 wide receiver in yards. You take Noah Brown. You take Brandon Cooks. None of them have made as many yards as George Pickens has this year. So if you get rid of George Pickens, you say, we're going to save the money and we're going to go back to this. This is more expensive because it's not fixing the problem. You understand? Me and my wife bump heads all the time because I'll say, don't buy that one, buy this one. She's like, but that one costs twice as much. It's like, yeah, but guess what? That one is a piece of crap. Well, I don't want to pay a lot of money for it. You're going to pay more money for the cheap one because you're going to have to replace it or it's not going to do the job. Hence, you get George Pickens taken care of. We don't have to go through all of these guys here that can't add up to this guy. That it can't be an assembly line of cheap, old, broken down players that are on their way out. Failed first round picks. You've got to have real legitimate players. And I hope that with Logan Wilson, that with Kenny Clark, with Quentin Williams, with George Pickens, where you look at him and say, yeah, they weren't first round picks that just underperformed. They were actually legitimate players that now become the cornerstone of your team. Now, here's where I want to say that the problem with the Cowboys, more times than not, is the Cowboys will say, this is my stud, and I've got to go ahead and hold on to it. Whether it's a Tyron Smith, a Zach Martin, a Dak Prescott, a Zeke Elliott, a DeMarcus Ware. You pay those guys, and you end up paying so much for those guys that you're forced into getting cheap guys to go around them. And I don't mean any disrespect to any of the players on the roster. But see, the thing is you can't be so reliant on one player. Because even now, as we're sitting here, if we had Micah Parsons, yeah, you're basically saying if you had one guy that's great, that's going to make up for all the other guys that aren't. And that's not how football works. The Eagles understand that. That's why they're constantly bringing in more guys. You look at their roster and say they got a hell of a lot more players than we do, but they're not satisfied with that. They were still trying to bring in Myles Garrett. They were trying to get Micah Parsons. And we don't do that. Now, here's where we have the opportunity. The opportunity, if you go to Over the Cap right now, today, sitting here, the Dallas Cowboys are 40. They've adjusted it with the new players we have on it. For next year, we're $46 million in the red.
Oh, shit! Oh, shit!
over the cap. And you're probably going, yeah, well, see, you can't sign George Pickens, man. You can't do nothing. Well, here's the thing. You have almost $21 million sitting here today, right now, that'll roll over. The salary cap will probably go up. The last 2 years it's gone up about $25 million. And since YouTube TV and Disney are fighting over how much more money they're going to be making off of us and how everything is going to streaming and how literally the YouTube TV is probably by next year going to be the biggest platform of all television watched. It's already the biggest streaming. It's already bigger than Fox and everything else. But as far as content goes, it's becoming the juggernaut. And hence, here's the problem. Disney is looking at it as people are cutting cable and things like that, that they want to make sure that they're not giving a discount, so to speak, to YouTube TV, because they recognize if they give them a favored nation status, so to speak, where, you know, with the price that they have with others, and then all of a sudden they become the 300-pound gorilla in the room, then they're looking at it and saying, you know, if we charged $1 more per person or whatever it is, then we would be making more money. In the end, it's all going to come out of our pocket. You can best believe that the salary cap's going to go up probably another $25 million. That alone gets you to zero. And the Cowboys, you got to feel, are going to move on from Diggs. And since Terrence Steele is being benched, you got to figure that they're going to be moving on from them. And you have to think that Malik Hooker getting $7 million from him and only taking a $2 million dead hit, that probably they'll start over in there. Those moves right there get you to $38 million. Just those. That's it. The Cowboys don't have to do anything else. But if you take, and I don't suggest that the Cowboys use every trigger that they have, but they could. If they decided to say, we're all in, we're pushing our chips in, and we're going to say, for the next couple of years, we're going to make a dynasty. We're going to go ahead, the last couple of years of Dak Prescott, we're going to say this is going to be a 3-year window. We get George Pickens signed, and we go through and we grab the cash. Do you realize that the Dallas Cowboys could get $150 million using the restructures? If you ended up, look, listen to me. Listen for a second. Between those 3 cuts that I said, and if you use the trigger on Dak, CD, Osa, Tyler Smith, Deron Bland, Ferguson, Williams, and Kenny Clark. Actually, it's more than that because I forgot Kenny Clark's not in there. Kenny Clark, it would be $184 million. Now, you're going to go ahead and, of course, down the road, you're going to be in cap hell. But I'm betting that most Cowboy fans would be okay if you said, we're going to go ahead and get a great safety. We're going to take those 2 number 1 draft picks. We're going to spend it on the defense. We're going to go out here and we're going to sign a legitimate tackle, right tackle, or maybe a left tackle. Maybe you move Tyler Guyton over or find out if Big Nate's the guy. We're going to go out. We're going to get ourselves another linebacker, and we're going to get another stud cornerback. And we're going to roll the dice, and we're going to see what we can do. I'm betting that most Cowboy fans would be okay with that. So that's where we are with the Cowboys. The question will be is, are the Cowboys going to go back to their ways of bargain basement shopping, or are they going to really go out here and set the table for a great meal? I can't answer that. But I will say that the Cowboys, after letting go talent that they had, and the difference between now and what happened with Amari Cooper, where you just got rid of him and you didn't replace his production or get in kind in return, that 5th round pick was crap. With Micah, at least, you've gone through, you saved some cap space, and you have money to do things, and you're actually using those picks to try and replace them. No guarantee it works out, but we'll see. But here's where it's funny that right now, if you had said to me after the Green Bay Packers signed Micah Parsons, traded for him, that Matt LaFleur would be on the hot seat, I didn't have that on my bingo card.
Be a problem for everybody in the NFC.
And then how about those Packers? They had some problems. Now they play the Giants, who just fired their coach. Jeff, what are you looking for in Green Bay?
Yeah, they got to start putting some points on the board. When you think about the Green Bay's lost 3 games when their defense has only allowed 16 points or fewer, you're in trouble. And you talk about Matt LaFleur being an offensive coach. Love is struggling. Look, they got O-line issues with injuries. They got wide receiver issues. There ain't no excuses in the NFL. This was a team that people thought had the talent to win the Super Bowl. They got to start producing on offense and take advantage of how good that defense really is.
Otherwise, the fallout could be fascinating. And I'll tell you who was talking about that. The big dog, Chris Canty, did not hold back when talking about Jordan Love yesterday on First Take. Listen.
I'm very concerned. Jordan Love is bad, and he's probably going to get his coach fired if he can't get it fixed. That's where we at. Here's the quiet.
That's very, very, very harsh.
Yeah, but here's why it's very, very, very fair, Stephen A.
Okay.
You make the move that the Green Bay Packers did before the season in trading multiple first-round draft picks and Kenny Clark, who is a perennial Pro Bowler, for Micah Parsons. What you are saying is that you believe this roster is good enough to contend for a championship. And every single facet of the football team is playing at a high level, except for the quarterback.
So I got to tell you, my first reaction when I heard it was I agreed with Stephen A. Whoa, this seems like we're going a little far here. And then as I listened to Chris Canty, the question came out. It's a big statement. The question is he right?
Honestly, when I heard the conversations about Matt LaFleur's job security, I was like, what are we doing? You look at that defense. This is a defense that's given up, I think, in their 3 losses, like 13 points.
Correct.
Like, I get the quarterback is the issue. I think the unfortunate thing for Matt LaFleur is every time you want to crown the Packers as like, oh, they're loaded. This is the time that they're going to actually show the world. They start to fall back, and you're like, what is this team? You don't know what to make of it. But to say that Matt LaFleur, we were just praising him not that long ago as like an underrated coach. Like, you know, when Aaron Rodgers was there, you get him out of there, and now you see him with Jordan Love, and you're like, this guy can really coach, and now we're saying he needs to go. I just don't see it.
Listen,
I really don't.
This is the point is he's an offensive coach. He's supposed to have the quarterback ready to play at a level. I think Chris Canty sort of laid it out well.
Yeah.
If this is a team that is not assured of making the playoffs, Dominique.
Now, I think if they had a great season and lost only a couple of games and then had 1 loss in the playoffs, people would forgive that. I think the problem is the expectations got so high, and they've had 3 really kind of ugly, bad losses that fall on his lap. Whether he's going to get fired or not, obviously, I don't know, but I know you can't change anything else. If they get to the end of this season to determine something needs to get changed, they're not going to change the quarterback. Those are too hard to find. The general manager has kind of been awesome for the time that he's been there. Like, that would be the person you look at. I'm not arguing that you should, but I could understand how someone would get to the point where we traded all this. We're going all in. Why are we worse than we expected?
Are head coaches easy to find? Good head coaches easy to find?
No, but they're much easier to find than quarterbacks.
Okay, let's take a look at this. All right, so let's think about the wide receiver core in Green Bay right now. Do we know how decimated the wide receiver core is?
Yeah.
Okay, we know Tucker Kraft is gone, right? 3 weeks ago, we were looking at the Green Bay Packers when they were bludgeoning the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they were going, hey, these guys are shoo-ins to go to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Jordan Love lit it up that night. Now, he's had 2 games in a row now where it hasn't looked very good. Okay, how many drops did they have last night?
3.
How well did they run the football last night? Who did they lose last night? Elton Jenkins. Zach Thomas hurt. Jaden Reed is hurt. Dontavian Wicks was coming off of injury. People dropping passes all over the place. They can't run the football right now. Did you see the defensive line of the Eagles? They were resetting the line of scrimmage over and over again. Does Jordan need to play better? Yes. Is it all him? Absolutely not. We always know that injuries and availability really affects the quarterbacks and what's surrounding them. And what's surrounding him right now are a bunch of guys who aren't really playing up to their potential either.
Wow.
Because 3 weeks ago, we were ready to say, look, this team is a shoo-in to be in Santa Clara. Always saying that coaches are going to get fired and stuff. I think that's just
not
a little
all of us
ridiculous.
said that about let me say this about Jordan Love. The portion about Jordan Love that he has to own is this. In the Browns game, right? He's the one who was a late fourth quarter interception cost him the game, right? You go to Carolina last week. He throws an arm punt into triple coverage. He really should have thrown another one down in the red zone, right? So, but he gets away with that one, so that one doesn't happen. But they end up losing that game. And then in the game against on Monday night against the Eagles,
this play,
he has a fumble at the end of the first half.
Ugly.
Which again, points are at a premium, right? It's 0-0 at the time. When the quarterback, so much is given, much is required. Because y'all going to tell me this guy, every quarterback can only be in discussion for the MVP. Well, if this is an MVP candidate and he is not doing his portion, then at some point the blame has to go to him. So LaFleur is having conversation with, hey, you can't cost us. And right now, Jordan Love is. Everybody talks about elevating those around them. Right now, that's not happening in Green Bay, and there are reasons. I'm not making excuses. Yeah. There are reasons. Wide receiver, offensive line, all those things. But the quarterback cannot be the guy that's a reason, and right now he has been a reason in 3 games where they've given up 16 or less.
But
he's out for the season.
When you're putting Bo Melton in big moments, who has been...
All right, so, it's funny that for the most part, everybody's made excuses. Well, when you're putting in Bo Milton, all these receivers are hurt, and this, that, and the other. They keep making excuses for that guy. Yet, my guy, we can put up 28, 30-some points and all that, and our defense can't bust a grape, and it's the blame on him. Does anybody else see that? Oh, well. Things aren't going to change. Already, good people, tomorrow starts week number 11 in the NFL season. The season is flying by. And I got the Dan Saleo show at 4:30. I got to get out of here.
I ain't scared of you motherfuckers.